I'm Bruce St. James.
I'm Pamela Hughes.
And we just spent an hour talking about a very difficult topic, for a variety of reasons, the topic of teen suicide right here in the Valley.
Yeah, it's a problem, and not just a problem, it's an epidemic, and we're starting to reach crisis levels. And so we wanted to go in depth on the topic, more so than just the statistics, which are pretty staggering. You know, when you hear that the leading cause of death for 10 to 14-year-olds in the state of Arizona is suicide.
It's amazing.
And you hear of, like in the East Valley in particular, in the last year and a half, they've lost like 38 kids. We wanted to do more than just quote statistics, but give stories and talk to experts that can help us all kind of navigate this.
Well, you know, one of the things that stood out for me was with Dr. Krasnow was how we've gotten better at talking about mental health, mental illness, depression, even suicidal thoughts.
Yeah.
We're better talking about it, but we're still not there yet. It's like we've come a long way, but man, we still have a little bit longer to go because we've reached a bit of a roadblock, I think, for a lot of people where they don't know where to go next. They don't know how to have that conversation.
And for me, when Dr. Krasnow, who is a clinical psychologist and he heads up the health and counseling services at ASU, he had said, you know, we've told teenagers for decades now, if you need help, if you know somebody who's going to harm themselves or if you're going to harm yourselves, tell an adult. Say something to an adult. They've gotten that message. But the issue is now adults don't know how to react to it. So one of my big takeaways, Bruce, was how do you react to it? When somebody comes up to you and shares that with you, which is very difficult for them to do, it's actually a little easier to respond than you may think. Here's what he said.
It's a critical thing that the first thing that you do when someone either volunteers their struggle or tells you about a struggle is that you thank them for telling you. And that is a piece that a lot of people leave out. They go into like a problem-solving mode, or they go through their list of training that they got in their curriculum or what they heard on a radio show. And the first thing they need to do is thank the person, because what that does is it communicates that whatever the person said to you is honorable and important enough that it deserves my thanks. And that advice actually works for any kind of difficulty, not just about suicidality or depression. If someone's experienced a trauma or a loss, what you say to them is, thank you for telling me. In that moment, what that does to the person who revealed it is, one, it's relaxing. Two, it communicates that what I just told this person, the other person's going to act like a person. And they're not going to snap into a role or a mode. They're not going to get me in trouble. They're not, all of the fears that I have, they're not extinguished, but you're relaxed. Exactly. You're moved back and you say, okay, this risk I took was worth it, at least for this split second moment, which is a dominant reason why people don't get help. They're concerned about the consequences, as you heard this morning with your colleague. They're concerned about being perceived a certain way. The shame associated with that is so pronounced. So by thanking them, you just immediately set the stage in that regard. After the thanks, you can go right into the things that you've learned, which is letting the person know that it's serious, that you want to help them, that you believe in them, that you know where there's resources available, that you know how to get them help, all of that other stuff to instill more confidence that they're in it together.
We learned from both of our guests, Dr. Krasnow and Ms. McPherson as well, about the impact, or really I would say the different challenges that kids today have. And they are different. You have to acknowledge that being a 14-year-old today is not like being a 14-year-old in the 70s or 80s, and the impact that things like social media and technology have on that.
We have allowed a device to become an obstruction between us and our most precious commodities. And we fight over it, and we take it away, and then we give it back, and we take it away. And we have allowed it to truly come between us. And the kids have stopped coming to us because they don't trust us. When we give an 11-year-old an iPhone XR for Christmas, we say, I trust you with the World Wide Web. No training. And then she hits her brother, and we take the phone away. And then I'm exhausted after work and we give the phone back. And then she doesn't do well in math and I take it back. And so in the middle of that dance that the entire United States is doing with their children, we're losing trust bit by bit. And they stop coming to us when they're in pain, when somebody's mean to them, when they're feeling self-harm or suicidal. And so we've lost trust with them.
You know, Bruce, like my final thought on this was we wanted to talk about it. It's an important issue. But there was this hesitation on my part, at least. You know, we talk about destigmatizing it, but are we normalizing it by talking about it too much? And I appreciated in my final takeaway with our guests today from Dr. Krasnow that no, these thoughts, we treat them like they're rare, but they're actually quite common. Talking about it is not planting those seeds. Those seeds are already there.
Right. And even along those same lines, we talk about teen suicide or attempts at suicide, because we learned that it's 1 out of 4 successful. So for every teen suicide out there, there's 3 that were unsuccessful in their attempt. We talk about this being so rare and unusual when the reality is it's not rare. It's not unusual. We're just really bad at talking about it. We're really bad at acknowledging really the pain that these kids are going through and what they feel is the only way to deal with it.
You know what? Not a lot of media organizations want to talk about it. It's uncomfortable.
I'm uncomfortable talking about it now.
It is. It is.
You know?
But by talking about it, you help others. And we see that in so many other issues in life. And so we're going to continue the discussion. It's an important one.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we had it here today.
I hope you picked something up. I hope you learned something from some of our guests who are listening back on the podcast. And thank you for joining us.
Here's our top story.
KTAR News, 92.3 FM, Arizona's news station.